Justify it. I'm going to make Dave, Jamey, and Heath justify their picks in last week's half PPR mock draft. Heath took a lot of guys coming off disappointing seasons. Jamey passed on quarterback at the 3-4 turn. Not a huge surprise, but he's still going to have to justify it. Dave took Amon-Ra St. Brown in the first round, which isn't bad, not at all, but I'm going to give you a reason why you might have made a mistake. You're going to have to justify it today, fellas. We welcome you to Fantasy Football today, and yeah, that's all I got. I don't. Yeah.
What are you going to have to justify?
Nothing. I'm out. I'm not in this. You could look at my team and make me justify if you'd like, but
wow.
I'm going to sit this out and pick on you. That's the best part of this.
It's okay. We make you justify the goofy things you say pretty much every single show. So you getting one show off, I don't mind it.
What would I have to
Chris Olave in round 4? Ugh.
I like Chris Olave in round 4. What's wrong with that?
I'm kidding.
Yeah, the next guy was Cortland Sutton. I'd rather have Olave.
Aaron Jones in round 6. Ugh.
Yeah, that's fine. Bring it on. But actually, I'll tell you the truth. I thought you guys drafted really well, so this was very difficult. So congratulations to you guys for drafting really well. All right, so
thanks. It's February.
It's almost March, Dave. Does that make you feel any better?
No.
Free agency's coming up soon.
I want to draft well in August. This is the time to tinker and kind of, play around with how to build out a roster. But I mean, we still don't know where the free agents are going. We don't know what teams the rookies are going to be on. So great. I'm drafting great now. That's super. No one cares because no one's drafting right now in their serious leagues.
All right. Well, thanks so much for watching Fantasy Football today. No need to talk for the next 6 months, I guess. Saints GM Mickey Loomis expressed confidence in Derrick Carr as the starting quarterback. The 49ers left tackle Trent Williams is going to play in 2025, and the 49ers still want to trade Deebo Samuel. The Rams are allowing guard Jonah Jackson to seek a trade, which is pretty interesting. He was a pretty big free agent signing for them last year. Had an injury-riddled season. Now they're allowing him to seek a trade. The Patriots are allowing defensive tackle Devon Godchow to seek a trade. And luckily, we don't have a lot of news to get to, so we can get right to justify it. All right, I'm going to start with Heath's team. Heath had the 4th pick in the draft.
You didn't see the McCaffrey news?
No.
Oh, they expect him to
yeah. Go ahead.
Season workouts?
Yeah. I don't know yeah, that's relevant, I guess.
Well, I mean, we spend some time recently saying that we haven't heard anything positive or negative one way or the other, so we got some positive stuff. And they also said that, if I'm not mistaken, that they think that there's a chance maybe Brandon Ayuk can take part in camp.
Yeah, and the thing about McCaffrey that I was thinking about when I read the update on him was I keep downgrading all these players, specifically Godwin and Rashee Rice, for coming off major injuries to their knees. And you can forget about the tendonitis. He also had surgery on his PCL, Christian McCaffrey. Am I overlooking that? Maybe. I might have to rethink that.
I think if you're going to have a policy, you got to stick to the policy, right?
Yeah, it's just I'm not going to knock every player who has surgery. I think PCL surgery, I don't know the severity. I don't know. It didn't seem like his injury was anywhere near Godwin's. I don't know how it compared to Rashee Rice's. So that's where I'm at. I have to, go ask all the doctors on Twitter and see what they have to say about it. But it definitely maybe reconsider. Anyway, Heath, you had the 4th pick, which was a shame because I was picking 3rd. So obviously I was going to take a lot of great players from you because I'm so good.
Right.
You took here. First thing you have to justify. 4 of your first 6 picks are coming off disappointing seasons. CeeDee Lamb in round 1, Breece Hall in round 3, Devontae Adams in round 5, I believe. Yes. And Travis Etienne in round 6. Justify 4 of your first 6 picks kind of being disappointing last year.
So I think I would first off debate the fact that Devontae Adams had a disappointing season. I think he finished the year as wide receiver 11 on a per game basis and was awesome in the second half. He did better than what I expected him to do. Second, I would say that all of these guys, except for CeeDee Lamb, had their price negatively impacted because of the disappointing season last year. Breece Hall used to be a first-round pick. Now I'm drafting him in round 3. Travis Etienne was a round 3, round 4 guy. Now I'm drafting him in round 6. The one I think that I do have to justify is CeeDee Lamb because I took him 4th overall, and he was disappointing last year. I'm mostly just expecting that Dak Prescott's going to come back, play quarterback for 17 games next year. CeeDee Lamb's going to be CeeDee Lamb again and in the conversation for wide receiver 1 overall.
What about the fact that it wasn't like you look at CeeDee Lamb's season, you go, oh, he was great with Dak Prescott, and then he struggled with Mac Jones. That wasn't really the case. He struggled with both of them. I would say he was much more consistent, actually, with Mac Jones.
Yeah, I don't know. The Mac Jones thing is throwing me off, I think.
Sorry.
But I was like, wait a second. Was Mac Jones on the Cowboys last year?
My bad. Cooper Rush.
You really Izerstatted that one.
Yeah, I don't know. I think he is awesome. And the small sample size that we saw, maybe he was inconsistent with Dak Prescott. I don't really care about. Does anybody think that CeeDee Lamb's not a top 3 or 4 wide receiver?
He is 4th for me.
He's not for me. He's just outside of it.
I'm looking back at what I did a month and a half ago. I had him 5th. Chase, Jefferson, Puka, Nico, Lamb.
Like he played with a backup quarterback for most of the season, right? And had 101 catches for 1,194 yards and 6 touchdowns in 15 games.
And the slow start with the contract situation.
Mm-hmm. I've got him with almost 19 PPR points per game with Dak, 7 games.
And what do you got with Mac Jones / Cooper Rush?
with Cooper Jones, 16.4. That includes the game Dak got hurt in. That's 8 games.
And plus he was playing hurt too at the end of the season. What's worse, me getting first names wrong, or you putting different players on different teams?
Me putting different players on teams, I would definitely say, yeah. With Dak Prescott, it was kind of weird. He had only 2 games all year with more than 3 games. 16.1 PPR fantasy points. He had a 19-point game against the Saints, 23 points against the Giants, and then he had about 40 points against the 49ers. But there were just a lot of duds there with Lamb. Okay. All right. So you're cool with that? You get the little discount?
I do think we should qualify duds. Like he did not have a game in single digits in terms of fantasy points. He did. Which one?
Baltimore. He must have fumbled. 8.7 PPR fantasy.
So he lost a fumble.
I mean, look,
let's not forget
being drafted super high, and
he averaged 19 points per game and had 3 outstanding games and 3 mediocre games and a terrible game.
He had a 13.
Could have had better stats.
11. Yeah, 13.6, 8.7, 11.4, 16.1, 16.2, 8.4 was probably with Mac Rush. Yeah. I mean, duds, no, but for a first-round pick, look, those are kind of duds. Those are pretty bad.
But again, he had backup quarterback, bad shoulder. I mean,
no, I'm talking about with Dak. I'm talking about with Matt. Matt.
Yeah, I didn't. I wasn't aware that there were legitimate concerns about CeeDee Lamb. As long as Dak Prescott's healthy and CeeDee Lamb's healthy, I think we all expect him to be incredible.
Yeah, he'll be 3rd for me if Stafford is traded out of Los Angeles. I put him ahead of Puka.
All right, let's justify it. So if you're going to go with the discount player coming off a disappointing season, you took Breece Hall in round 3 over Tyreek Hill. Justify it. By the way, my justify it is not a disagreement, just so everybody knows. Like I said, I think these guys drafted really well, but that was a decision that you made that I wanted to get your take on. You took Breece Hall over Tyreek Hill. Justify it.
Yeah, listen, Breece Hall averaged just a little bit more per game last year than Tyreek Hill did. They were both disappointing. And I will say, then Tyreek Hill did with Tua, 14.8 to 14.6 fantasy points per game. Hill is a young running back entering his prime. Tyreek turns 31 this weekend.
Okay, fair. And finally, justify it. Round 4, you picked Alvin Kamara.
Breece Hall, by the way, his numbers pre-Devontae were pretty impressive.
His numbers when he was getting a lot of work were pretty impressive.
Well, you look at the second half, he was dealing with the knee injury. The first half, the first 7 games before Devontae joined the team, his receptions were way up. His production was way up. And then just you get whatever happened, change in offense, change in coach. He's battling injuries. Offensive line starts falling apart. He falls apart. Like he easy bounce back candidate.
Yes.
Yeah, kind of weird. They never gave him more than 18 carries. It was a season high for Breece Hall. little surprising, especially week 18 of the 2023 season. He had something like 35 carries and never had more than 18 this past year. All right, one more. Justify it for Heath. You picked Kamara in round 4. At that point, you had Lamb, McBride, and Breece Hall. This was a 3 wide receiver league. So did you have any regrets with your first 4 picks only having 1 wide receiver? Your receivers ended up being Lamb, Devontae Adams, Juwan Jennings, Jacoby Myers, and Adam Thielen. So it's not so much a justify it, but a reflection of picking Kamara in round 4. Any regrets?
No, because I don't think it's really rare to find a player at any position with the kind of upside that Kamara has in round 4. Like, I understand the risks. He's an older running back. We're scared of him. But we also know that if he is healthy and himself, he's probably a top 5 running back. And if I can find a top 5 running back upside in round 4, I'm all the way in. I don't care about the positions that much. Also, it's generally speaking, and I don't know if it'll be this way this year, but that round 4 through 6 range, there's a lot of flatness when it comes to the wide receivers. I may have taken Devontae Adams if I hadn't taken Kamara there.
Okay, yeah, the receivers who went in between his pick of Kamara in round 4 and Devontae Adams in round 5 were Olave, Cortland Sutton, and Zay Flowers. I don't think you can really find a running back that did anything like Kamara last year. I mean, you could say David Montgomery. He was two running backs. Yeah, no, I mean, your pick makes sense. I think I probably would have taken Kamara. Would I have taken Kamara as my 3rd running back? I think I would have. If you had not taken him the pick before. And for those of you who can't see the draft, you can go to youtube.com/fantasyfootball today and watch any of our videos. If you have trouble finding them, click on the live tab and you'll see a list, but just go to youtube.com/fantasyfootball today. Also, I will try to put a link to the draft results in the episode description if you're just listening. We're going to be right back with Jamey's team. Justify it for Jamey, taking Devon Achane over Derrick Henry and Kyren Williams, among others, and more after this on FFT.
Who's in? Who's out? Let the madness begin. The NCAA Men's Basketball Championship Selection Show on CBS and streaming on Paramount Plus.
Okay. Jamey wearing a hat on Thursday. Usually hats are on Wednesday. Justify it.
Off season, get a lot of hats.
Okay. What kind of hat is that? What do we got there?
Let's see if you can guess.
It's got to be Little League. No, it's not Little League. Okay, it's a B. It's a fancy B. It's not a brewery. You wouldn't be repping a brewery.
It looks like a Brooklyn Nets hat.
Is it a Brooklyn Nets hat?
It is not, but that is the most common guess.
Yeah, I have no idea. What's it? What is it?
Dave, you want to guess?
Let me see the side of it because there's something on the
Nothing else. All black with just this.
No. It looks like there's
A
something
little red over on the left side.
on your left ear.
Oh, it's the sorry, it's a little. It is baseball, Little League.
Okay.
Boca Raton. Something.
Oh, yeah. It's a good idea. The Bandits.
Baseball, but no, it is the Baltimore Orioles City Select. Those are our jerseys for.
Pretty cool.
All right. Yeah, but the entire uniform looks like the Brooklyn Nets.
Oh, that's interesting. I was going to say I thought it was just the grade you were giving my team.
No. That would be the Cleveland Indians. Cleveland Guardians.
That's right. All right. At least we're not. At least about on the Tigers. All right. Justify it, Jamey.
Fresno's team name?
What'd you say, Dave?
Fresno.
Fresno.
Frankfurt.
Or just the White Sox. Just terrible.
Or just the White Sox. Thank you very much.
All right, Jamey, you picked Devon Achane over Kyren Williams and Derrick Henry with the 12th overall pick. Kyren Williams averaged 1 more fantasy point per game than Achane in half PPR in 2024. Henry averaged 4 more fantasy points per game than Achane in half PPR. Justify it.
I like to look at obviously Achane's numbers with Tua and what he was able to accomplish, during the majority of the season, despite the fact Tua missed 6 games. You clearly have to factor that in it with Tua at this point, just knowing that 2023 was fantastic that he stayed healthy, but 2024 went back to, concussion problems and then the hip injury, 2 things that have plagued him from college to the pros. But I think if you're looking for upside, obviously, I'm going to factor in age. I think Achane's trajectory is going in the right direction. I'm a little concerned about Derrick Henry. And I do think that Achane just, based on comparing two players, has more upside than Kyren Williams as well. So to me, Achane's a first-round pick. I was thrilled to get him at 12, and I would take him over those other two guys.
Anyone disagree?
I currently have Kyren over Achane. I would take Achane over Henry, but if Matthew Stafford leaves, then Achane would definitely be over Kyren, unless, they go get Sam Darnold.
I don't know. It sounds like Aaron Rodgers is in their future.
Yeah.
I know. They're getting older at quarterback somehow in LA. But I guess it makes sense financially for them. I don't know if that's what's going to happen or not. I think the whole thing's kind of weird. Look, Derrick Henry definitely gets a push up the board in leagues where you don't get the full point per catch, and Achane should get a push down the board because you just don't know how many what his numbers will be like if you don't get that boost from the catches. Last year he averaged, this is Achane, 15.4 half PPR points per game. Derrick Henry was at 19.2. He averaged 0.6 fantasy points per game less in half PPR compared to full PPR. So if you're just going against Derrick Henry and you don't want to have him on your team, I get it. He's 31 years old. He's coming off a season with 367 carries. Then it makes sense to not take him in late round one. Achane being the guy that you take over Kyren Williams, as of now, I don't know if I love that either, but I think it's really close between the two of them. I've kind of bought into Kyren Williams all the way as being a reliable fantasy running back. And I guess if I'm splitting hairs between him and Achane in half PPR, I think I'd favor Kyren Williams, assuming the Rams have a decent quarterback.
Yeah, Jamey makes a good point about the Tua games. I've got Achane at nearly 20 points per game in half PPR with Tua. That's basically tied with Jahmyr Gibbs, only Barkley being better. That's amazing. The argument I would make for Kyren over Achane, I think the argument for Henry is easy. It's either you care about the age or you don't, right? But for Kyren, Devon Achane had 203 carries in 17 games. Kyren Williams had 316. Kyren Williams had 5 games with 25 or more carries in his career. Devon Achane has 1 game with more than 18 carries compared to 16 games of more than 18 carries over his career for Kyren. So that's it. Obviously the catches, Achane's going to crush Kyren probably, but he's going to beat him. I don't know if he's going to crush him again, but the carries are going to be all Kyren Williams. 203 carries in 17 games is pretty low. So that would be my only argument. Like 6 rushing touchdowns for Achane, 14 for Kyren last year. 16 total touchdowns for Kyren Williams, 12 for Achane.
It's also, we did do this draft right after Raheem Mostert was released. And if it's, backfield staying as they are right now, I like the competition a little bit better for what Devon Achane's facing. I think he's going to get more work. Not Kyren. Get more work than where he's been because of Mostert not being there.
Okay. All right. At the 3-4 turn, you selected Rashee Rice and DJ Moore. We had Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson on the board, and you decided to go. At that point, you had Achane and Malik Neighbors, and then you went Rashee Rice, DJ Moore. This is a 3-receiver league, FYI, half PPR, but it's also 6 point per passing touchdown. You took Rice and Moore over Allen and Jackson. Justify it.
It's just not the way I draft. I think we'll see those quarterbacks go, sooner and based on ADP and probably how most drafts will unfold for our audience that's listening. Not too much more because I think people are starting to understand, to take quarterbacks early. But in any event, I just don't draft that way, So especially when we're starting 3 receivers, I think DJ Moore is going to get a boost with the offense change in Chicago and Ben Johnson calling plays. Hopefully, as a slot receiver for the Bears. I'm still, as of today in the camp that Rice will be the best receiver for the Chiefs ahead of Xavier Worthy. So I think I've taken him in every offseason draft we've done so far. And it's been a wide range of spots for him. So this is could end up being great value for Rice if he's back at 100% and playing the way that he did in the first 3 games of the season before suffering the knee injury. So I like this build better than taking a quarterback early.
All right. And again, I encourage you to look at Jamey's team. He always waits on quarterback. Goff and Knicks, but I'd have a hard time passing up Allen and Jackson there. When Josh Allen's been a top 3 quarterback per game 5 straight seasons, just look at the career of DJ Moore. You never know what you're going to get from this guy. And Rice coming off an injury, it just seems like how could I pass up Josh Allen 36th overall? Would anybody have taken Allen there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think I can pass on those two in round 4. Like you can round 3, okay, and this is right at the turn, so I get it. But I think if either of those guys are there in round 4, I'm gonna have to take them.
I agree.
So if you were Dave, if you had been on the clock and you had Achane and Neighbors, and you had
one of my 2 picks, probably would have been Josh Allen. I did take Josh Allen in round 4.
Yeah, 4 picks later, 3 picks after Jamey took DJ Moore. Yeah. All right, Jamey. You drafted Mark Andrews, 61st overall. He was the 5th tight end off the board. Bowers and McBride in round 2, Kittle in round 4, Laporta in round 5, and with the first pick of round 6, you took Mark Andrews. That gave you Achane, Neighbors, Rashee Rice, DJ Moore, Jamison Williams, 60th overall, Mark Andrews, 61st overall. He finished as tight end 7 per game in half PPR last year, and he did that with 11 touchdowns. So justify this pick, 61st overall for Mark Andrews.
Again, just looking at, position scarcity and sort of the drop off for me where, tight end starts to happen. So I would prefer to have that position locked up more so than quarterback. I do think that we saw him come on after a slow start. Obviously still buying into what his role is with the Ravens and buying what Lamar Jackson will continue to do. So we'll see how this receiving core ends up looking for the Ravens. We'll see if Isaiah likely has a bigger role. But I just trust Mark Andrews. He's been as pretty much consistent as you can find at the position for the last 5 years. And the fact that he's coming off a season where he led the position in touchdowns, I think he's guaranteed for 8+ as long as he stays healthy. So in this format, I'm fine with him in this spot.
What did you guys think about that? Because I was a little surprised just to think the guy's caught 11 touchdowns last year and was only tight end 7 per game. He's actually in half PPR. Was actually outscored per game by David Njoku. Where did Njoku go here? Probably pretty late. Am I missing him? Oh, he went right. We went at the end. There you go. All the way in the end. End of round 6. So just beginning of round 6, Mark Andrews, end of round 6, David Njoku. But does Andrews have what do you guys think his ceiling is?
Oh, I don't think the ceiling is the problem with taking him in round 5. I think the ceiling is probably still a top 3 tight end. The risk is the floor. The risk is that he has a season that looks a lot like last season, even if you want to discount the first couple of weeks, first 4 weeks maybe, that looks like week 5 through week 18, where I think he was on pace for 795 yards, 64 catches, and scores 6 touchdowns. And then he's a replacement level tight end.
What happens if he doesn't score 11 touchdowns in his last 12 games?
Jamey doesn't take him in round 4.
Yeah, right.
Okay. Yeah.
I would take Njoku. I would take, with the talks that Kelsey's going to be back, I would take Kelsey. I think there'll probably be 6 or 7 tight ends I'll take before Andrews, but the ceiling is still elite.
Okay. All right. Thank you for justifying it, Jamey. I appreciate you.
You're welcome.
All right.
Did you thank me for justifying it?
You went to commercial.
I don't remember being thanked for justifying it.
Commercial. It was my mic was muted. I actually gave you like a really long thank you. It was 2 minutes long during the commercial break, but no one heard it. But I'll text it to you. All right, Dave, you are up. You drafted Amon-Ra St. Brown 9th overall, ahead of running backs such as Jonathan Taylor, Devon Achane, Kyren Williams, Derrick Henry, etc. All those guys were gone by your second pick in round 2, which was Josh Jacobs. Why did you take St. Brown? Justify taking St. Brown in half PPR. He scored 15.1 fantasy points per game last year. That was down from 17.1 the year before. And again, not disagreeing, but he was the, let's see, 1, 2, 3. He was the 6th wide receiver off the board after Chase, Jefferson, Lamb, Nico, and Nakua. Justifies St. Brown 9th overall.
I decided to start the draft with a wide receiver because I knew that one of those running backs that you just named would make it back to me in round 2. And if it didn't, then one of Neighbors or Brian Thomas Jr. would make it back to me in round 2. And I would have been elated if I had gotten one of them and started this draft going receiver. I opted for the safe route with St. Brown, just figuring we know what his role is in Detroit. We know that the Lions offense probably, like, the biggest change the Lions offense will have this offseason is in play caller. And I don't even know if that's necessarily a good thing that they are changing from, they had to change from Ben Johnson because he left for Chicago. But I don't know if I love who they replaced him with. So that makes me a little bit nervous. I think I probably should have gone the upside route and taken Neighbors, who I'm very bullish on. I expect his quarterback to be better than what he had last year. And it's negligible, the difference between Neighbors and St. Brown on a per game average in half PPR. And Brian Thomas probably for that big stretch that he had with Cooper Rush. I mean, Mac Jones at the end of the season, Brian Thomas Jr. was probably better as far as half PPR goes. So I probably should have taken one of those younger wide receivers and just waited and for a running back or maybe even ARSB coming back to me in round 2. But at this stage in drafting, when I don't have that one running back that I've got to go with ahead of the pack of the others, and I'm just kind of settling for who's ever left from that gang of who is it? Who went in that space? Like Derrick Henry was in there, Jacobs, Kyren, Jonathan Taylor, Achane was in there. Yeah, just settling for one of those guys who's ever left that's ranked the highest at running back. That's who I'll take in round 2 after I take the receiver who I want in round 1. For this draft, that receiver was St. Brown.
So I want to talk a little bit about Amon-Ra St. Brown here and this the season that he had. Let's just go to the chat real quick from Joey. Joey said a couple of interesting things, but Joey said, I was offered Brian Thomas straight up for Amon-Ra St. Brown in a dynasty league. I hate one-to-one trades. Tough decision there. What would you guys do?
I would be like Joey and just be like, I hate this offer. Why are you doing this? I think I have them back-to-back in dynasty, but yeah, I'd take Thomas.
I would take the few years that you may get with Thomas.
Mm-hmm.
It's 3 years, and I don't have a problem saying no to this trade because I think we all view St. Brown as a steady, safe type of player who is he ascending? Is he just elite? Yeah, he is. Could Brian Thomas Jr. be better? Yes, but Brian Thomas Jr. could also fall apart. We don't know what's going to happen in the future. I think there's a little more volatility. I'll say if you've got a team that's competitive now, stick with the safer play with St. Brown.
More importantly, Heath, you can address this. Joey said, Heath once made me buy him a pack of gum from the Aria gift shop and never paid me back. We have bigger problems.
This is clearly a lie. No one's ever had to make Joey do something nice. He probably bought the gum because my breath stunk and just gave it to me as a gift. I don't remember it at all, but not true. I do want to say, I do think there's at least a little bit of question mark about the Lions offense and St. Brown and whether he's a top 6 wide receiver or a top 12 wide receiver without Ben Johnson there.
Well, also, I just wanted to point out with St. Brown, he hurt his yards in his last 3 years. 1,161, 1,515, 1,263. The first 2 years were 16 games. Last year was 17 games. What is he? How did he get to 1,500 yards? The catches weren't all that different. How did he get to 1,500 yards in 2023? He might be more like a 1,250-yard guy, whereas Chase just had a 1,700-yard season. Jefferson could be even better than that. CeeDee Lamb, I don't know what he had 2 years ago, but it was better than St. Brown. I just want to point that out about Amon-Ra St. Brown. He could get back to his 2023 form, but I don't know that I would think that he's a 1,500-yard guy. He might be more like 1,300 best case scenario. So it's just I feel like catches, touchdowns, we might have kind of a grip on that. Yards sometimes get a little bit lost in the discussion for me anyway. But he's not the same guy as some of the other players being.
I mean, you're also seeing ascending players around him. I mean, Jameson Williams coming off, his best season. Sam Laporta the last 2 years obviously been a factor. Run game's been amazing. So there's a lot of things he has to contend with.
Target per route run rate last 3 seasons for St. Brown: 30.3%, 28.5%, 25.7% this past year. It is a bit of a drop off. Okay, he's a great player, but some things to consider with him. Let's take a quick break here. Got 2 more justify it's for Dave, and then I will thank him for justifying it. And we'll be right back on the 50.
Gives it to Jenkins for the championship. A 16 beats a 1. From sweet to elite to the Final Four.
All right, welcome back. Dave, in round 4, at this point you had Amon-Ra St. Brown, Josh Jacobs, and T. Higgins. And then you took Josh Allen. So now you have St. Brown, Higgins, Jacobs, Josh Allen. Very good start to your team. The next pick was George Kittle. Thinking about how deep quarterback is compared to tight end, taking Josh Allen over George Kittle, and Kittle was tight end 1 per game in this format last year. Justify it.
I'm always going to take a quarterback at a value that I feel like is a steal. And you kind of convinced me, Adam, earlier this offseason that Josh Allen should be the QB1 based on consistency and just what his upside is. And I don't know if he necessarily hits his upside every single year, but he definitely does a great job for fantasy managers season in and season out. You're getting north of 25, 26 fantasy points per game and 6 point per passing touchdown leagues. And I don't mind being the guy that takes the first quarterback off the board when it's Josh Allen and it's with my 4th pick. It just so happened in this draft, he's the 2nd quarterback off the board and was absolutely delighted. It felt like it was a good value. And yeah, when you go and you look at this mock draft, you'll see, Joe Burrow in round 5, that's a decent value. Jamey takes quarterbacks late. Those are always going to be excellent values. Not only do I feel like Josh Allen was one of the best values in this draft, that pick kind of set off other managers taking other quarterbacks, and I didn't want to miss out on that. And so, yeah, George Kittle is great, and I expect him to have another good year, at least another good start to the year next year in San Francisco, but he's not going to get me 26 points per game. And there are a few other quarterbacks who might. None of them would have made it back to me when I was up in round 5. So it's kind of a combination of looking for great value, taking the best available player, and being able to do that without having to spend one of my first 3 picks.
I also think that, like, as good as Kittle was last year and Allen had a down year last year, Allen was 4.5 points better than QB 12. Kittle was 5.5 points better than tight end 12. Like, even in a down year, Allen's edge was on replacement value was almost equal to Kittle's.
Mm-hmm.
Was it a down year? I mean, we got to look at Allen, right? The last 2 seasons for Josh Allen, his points per game, 20 in 6 point per passing touchdown leagues, 20, let's say between 26 and 27 the last 2 years. That's a lot lower than the 3 before that. 28.9, 27.6, 28.7. Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson just had 30 points per game this past season. Are we seeing some signs of, I do not want to use the word decline. He's still obviously playing at an incredible level, but statistical decline for Allen. And by the way, the fantasy points per game I'm using are for 16 games. I'm not counting 0 points in week 18 because that does count. If you look at a website and say his points per game, he does get docked for not scoring any points in 1 snap in week 18. I'm excluding that. But are there concerns? I mean, he didn't have as prolific of a year. 2 years in a row without 30 touchdown passes. The 3 years before that, 35 to 37 touchdown passes.
I think you're seeing the growth in him and the growth in the offense. So he's not having to do as much because James Cook had a pretty solid season. We know what the receiving core looks like, so he's not getting a lot of help in terms of, playmakers making, difference making type of things down the field for him. So, that's sort of, I think, grinding on some of his stats a little bit as well. But when they're having success and he's not having to be Superman, and that was the case for their team for a good portion of the season, like, that's just going to negatively hurt him in a small regard. So I think if you're concerned about Josh Allen, you're just concerned, is he QB1? You're not concerned about a fall off.
Can I mention one other thing?
Of course, yeah.
He had 5 games last year north of 32 PPR points, including a 57.9 banger in week 14. We all remember that game. It was crazy. I don't expect him to do that every single week, but it's hard to find players at any position that can offer you that type of game-wrecking upside where he's going to win you your week. But Josh Allen kind of provides that upside almost every single week. He's a great value. He deserves to be QB1, and he will be for me. And getting my QB1 in round 4 just feels like a no-brainer, to be honest with you.
No, I wasn't disputing Allen in round 4. I was just saying him over Kittle when.
Yeah, I like that. For me, is that's the issue I have, is like looking at Dave's roster. Like, you could have found a quarterback somewhere along the way. That's clearly not Josh Allen. Your tight end's Noah Gray.
Yeah, I know. I botched that.
I would say, like, there's not concern about Josh Allen being less good than he was.
Right.
The concern was my concern coming into the beginning of last year, and it's that he threw less than he has since he became good, and he ran less than he has. And that's just an offensive philosophy thing. We saw that a little bit at the end of last year when they made the offensive coordinator change. And it seems like Sean McDermott has been pretty public about how much more he likes what they're doing offensively now than what they used to do. So like, they are intentionally taking work off of Josh Allen's plate. He's going to have fewer pass attempts and fewer rush attempts than we're used to. So he has to be even more elite in terms of efficiency to give us that 28, 29, 30 fantasy points per game.
I mean, I could tell you just from the last 3 owners meetings that Sean McDermott has very publicly, to your point, Heath, said, we don't want him running as much. We don't want him running as much. We don't want him running as much, and I think they recognize, like, he takes a lot of hits and they don't want him to, suffer any injuries that's going to take him off the field for any significant stretch. So, that's kind of what I was getting at. The maturation process of what he's gone through is like, he's playing the position smarter. And, like Dave's point, he's got that in his bag. He's got, I don't know, catching a touchdown, but he certainly has the ability to go for 30 plus on any given week. And I think we could say the same thing about a lot of the elite guys. The one that comes to mind is, if Mahomes ever was allowed to go get touchdowns on every drive, he'd go get touchdowns on every drive. That's just not the way that the Chiefs are playing right now. But he certainly has that because he goes and does it in the fourth quarter whenever he needs to. So that's what makes Lamar Jackson special. I think it's what's going to make Jaden Daniels special. It's going to, it's what Jalen Hurts with his ability as a runner, as a passer. This is why these guys are Joe Burrow. These guys are top 5 fantasy quarterbacks for a reason, because not only will they do it, they can do it. I think whenever they not necessarily want to, but if they need to go do it, they can do it. So
go ahead. I thought you were.
No, I'm just to look at Josh Allen, like, that's not a bad pick. I think just in terms of roster construction, like, had you taken Kittle there, and in somewhere along the line, maybe after the Jalen McMillan pick, or round 8 or later, you throw a quarterback in there, your roster to me looks a hell of a lot better. As good as Josh Allen is, Kittle can still be tight end 3 if you want to go that route, and sort of knock him down a couple of pegs because of how we view Brock Bowers and Trey McBride. I think your roster just looks that much better if you have that position covered and then finding a quarterback along the way. You take one of the guys off my roster as well.
Or I could have taken David Njoku in round 6 instead of James Conner. I could have taken, Tucker Kraft is a guy that I've gravitated toward. I could have taken him in round 10. Like, obviously taking Noah Gray with my last pick is me punting on tight end. And again, that's something that I was experimenting with. This is the time of the year to do that stuff. The pick looks totally dumb now. It would be a different tight end if we were doing it. It might be Evan Ingram, and I might punt on him too. But with your literally the last pick at tight end, I'm looking for somebody who I start in week 1, maybe week 2, and then I'm playing the waiver wire with that position. If 2 other things. Number one, if the Bills take Josh Allen's rushing ability out of his bag, you're looking at a team that's like fighting to be 500. Like,
no, he's not stopping.
Right. They can talk about it all they want. I don't think
McDermott was never making it the case that they don't want him to run. They just want him to run less and smarter how he runs.
And the other thing I was going to bring up is, in this specific draft, Jalen Hurts went ahead of Josh Allen. And then after I took Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson's gone. Jane Daniels is gone. Patrick Mahomes is gone. Joe Burrow's gone. So presumably, if I passed on Josh Allen, maybe Burrow makes it back to me. Maybe there's another manager. Heath, maybe you would have taken Joe Burrow. Joe might have taken Joe Burrow. I don't know if I get one of those first top six quarterbacks. And then I'm waiting and hoping that I'm the guy that takes Baker Mayfield. Jordan Love went in round 9. I'm sorry. I want to take a quarterback at a good value, and Baker Mayfield would probably be the last one that I would have considered, and that might have been my round 8 pick, and that would have been okay. And Jamey, you probably would have loved it and given it your stamp of approval. I feel a lot better with Josh Allen than I do Baker Mayfield. Not to slight Baker Mayfield, but I think Josh Allen, and I don't think this is anything crazy, I think he's the better fantasy quarterback.
Adam, just while we're on that topic, would you have taken Mahomes if Burrow had gone ahead of Mahomes?
No. I took Burrow in round 5. You're saying with my round 5 pick, would I have taken?
Well, Mahomes went ahead of Burrow. I'm not drafting it that way. I would rather have Burrow.
No.
But I'm curious if you would have, because I know you like to take a quarterback early, and Burrow in that spot is a very good pick. But would you have done it if it's Mahomes?
I would have considered it just because I don't really love round 5 so much. The next 4 picks after I took Joe Burrow were Devontae Adams, Jalen Waddle, DK Metcalf, and George Pickens, and then Devontae Smith. Those guys seem fine. And then I'm not saying they're bad picks, but I'm not doing like cartwheels over those picks. I would have considered Mahomes. I don't think I would have. I think I probably would have taken Devontae Adams. Justify it. Yeah, that's no. I think there's a pretty big difference to me between Burrow and Mahomes. There is a big gap for me in 6 passing touchdown leads between those two. No, you don't agree, Heath?
There was last year.
I mean, obviously, I'm not saying Joe Burrow is a better player than Patrick Mahomes, but from a fantasy standpoint, I do think there's a big enough gap. Should be like a full round, not 4 picks or 3 picks and separating them.
Yeah, I think it depends, and we go through this pretty regularly. Like, how much does last year influence what you think about someone in fantasy when we have got a couple of guys who have a pretty strong 3 and 5 year histories?
Yeah, it's 2 years in a row for Mahomes.
But we can't talk about 2 years ago because Joe Burrow was not even a top 12 quarterback.
Look, man, you put Patrick Mahomes on the Bengals, and I'll take him. Maybe as QB1. It's just the Chiefs are not operating in a way that's making Mahomes a great fantasy option. And
I'm not necessarily debating that. I'm just saying that I think maybe there's 2, but I think it's 1 year out of their careers where Joe Burrow was better.
That's fine.
I think I have Joe Burrow ahead of Mahomes. I just don't know why we would say it's not close. Like it's a lot of recency bias.
It's 2 years in a row of Mahomes being this super low ADOT guy, and the Chiefs being a defense first, not a high scoring team. Whereas the Bengals obviously had a terrible defense, and they've got Jamar Chase, and if they don't re-sign T. Higgins, that would change things. But assuming they bring back Chase and Higgins, I just love the setup for Burrow. And I've also seen, I made this point about Burrow last year. There hasn't been that much time where he has been healthy, with Jamar Chase healthy, with T. Higgins healthy. But in that time, he's been a guy who's averaged about, this was going into 2024, averaged about 28 points per game or something like that. I'm sorry, I don't have the numbers right off the top of my head. But I did notice that with him when everyone's been healthy, Joe Burrow had shown he can be absolutely elite. And then he backed it up with a huge season, scoring 27 points per game in 2024. I don't think he gets there again. I think the pass attempts will probably go down. He threw 652 times. But I do think he's 24, 25 points per game, something like that. And with potential to be at 28-ish points per game. But, I'm not going to project that. So I just think that the situation, Joe Burrow backed up what I thought he could be last year. And it's 2 years in a row of Mahomes averaging about 21 points per game. And what's going to change? He doesn't have Kelsey anymore. Like, he has a shell of Kelsey. And we're hoping
he could have Rashee Rice and Xavier Worthy together.
I don't know that Rice makes him that much better. Like, Rashee Rice is like a 6-yard ADOT guy. And like he's got to. My point is, they got to get more explosive plays. Their offense is not explosive right now. They need to change that. That's my issue with Mahomes. And again, I only said a round difference. I just don't think they should be basically back to back in the draft. I hope that made sense. That was
you justified it. Adam, thank you for justifying. Dave, I don't know if anybody thanked you, but thank you for justifying it also.
Well, Dave has one more to justify here, although I don't really. It's kind of boring. Should we do it?
What is it?
You took Jalen McMillan and Cooper Kupp in rounds 7 and 8. Looking back, do you wish you had taken a wide receiver in round 6 instead of James Conner? And then maybe taking Najee Harris, DeAndre Swift, or Jalen Warren in round 7. You took McMillan and Kupp in round 7 and 8, and maybe dip into the wide receiver pool a little bit earlier, go in round 6. What do you think?
Yeah, I could have had Godwin and Jalen Warren instead of James Conner and Jalen McMillan. Keep up with the Jalens, everybody. I probably should have done that because I still believe that Chris Godwin can be a good high-volume fantasy receiver. He was awesome in half PPR last year before he got hurt. Sounds like he's staying in Tampa, which would obviously crush the value of Jalen McMillan. I drafted McMillan with the idea that Godwin wasn't going to be back on the team, so that pick now sucks. I probably would have done that, but I also, until further notice, I'm still a recovering running back addict, and I want to make sure that I cover my bases with running backs in the draft. So I got Jacobs in round 2, loved that. Got David Montgomery in round 5. That cost me Sam Laporta, but I still wanted a running back that I could at least start as an RB2. When I was up in round 6, Godwin was available. He literally went with the next pick, but I took James Conner at that point because I wanted to make sure I was solid at running back.
Sure.
And just short of that, yeah, I probably could have gone in a different direction. And in half PPR, Jalen Warren isn't as appealing. And James Conner certainly could outscore Jalen Warren. We also don't know for sure that Jalen Warren is going to be a feature guy. We don't know for sure that James Conner is going to get the exact same type of workload that he had last year. There's two things working against Conner there. So I probably should have taken Godwin.
No, I mean, well, first of all, at this point, when we did this draft a week ago, we didn't get this vote of confidence for Chris Godwin from Jason Light of the Bucks, right?
We had the contract news.
What was the contract news? What?
That they pushed back the void date.
Oh, okay.
Did we have that a week ago?
Yep.
But they didn't. But it certainly wasn't like, oh, we love Chris Godwin. We definitely want to bring him back. I don't know if that makes any difference now.
That doesn't make any. The contract void being pushed back or whatever it is being pushed back is far more important.
All right.
That means they want to try and keep him.
Okay. Well, Dave, thank you so much for that justification.
It was my distinct honor, Adam.
And Jamey, thank you.
You're welcome. I never felt more, welcome to do something.
Yeah. Well, you deserve it. And Heath,
yeah,
have a great weekend, man.
Oh, can't wait to talk to you again, Adam. Really looking forward to it. We will have FFT Dynasty tomorrow, but you won't be there.
Yeah. No, I won't.
Which is going to be.
Thank you for doing that, Heath.
Thank you. And honestly, you'd rather do a solo mailbag than ask me to come on.
Accurate.
I think it should be called a mailbox, not a mailbag, given Heath's issues.
Maybe. Be a pretty short show. All right, folks. We're out of here. We'll talk to you on FFT Express, FFT Dynasty tomorrow. And by the way, happy 7th anniversary to CBS Sports HQ. It's awesome. If you're not watching CBS Sports HQ, you're making a mistake. It's a wonderful time to be watching. Fill out your brackets, but watch CBS Sports HQ to get everything you need on the NCAA tournament. For Jamey, Dave, and Heath, and Thomas, I'm Adam. We'll talk to you on Monday on FFT.